Over the summer, the Greyhound bus started stopping at a weird place in Plattsburgh. In front of the county government center, there was limited shelter, no bathrooms, no real space for the bus to park. It caused problems. Now the city's negotiated a better plan with the bus companies, but it may not be the last plan. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Claxton Hepburn Medical Center, dedicated to providing patient care and regional services to the people of St. Lawrence County. ClaxtonHepburn.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Thursday, September 12th. First up, many North Country communities marked the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th attacks yesterday. Veterans gathered for a meal at the VFW in Greenwich in Washington County. In Saratoga Springs, residents honored first responders and veterans at the park in town. Aaron Levine was there and brought back this story for the New York Public News Network.
Hundreds gathered in High Rock Park in the morning to honor the nearly 3,000 lives lost more than 2 decades ago. Commander James Defenderfer of the Nuclear Power Training Unit in Ballston Spa addressed the crowd standing beneath twisted metal beams taken from the wreckage of the World Trade Center.
What I want to remember from that day, though, more than anything, is the heroes. The people who stood up to do something. The 343 firefighters, the 72 law enforcement officers that ran to the scene and ultimately paid the price with their lives in trying to help people.
As 2001 recedes, Defenderfer says it is important to remember the sacrifices made by first responders and servicemen and women, not just in the wake of the attacks, but in the years since.
I'm welcoming sailors into our United States Navy today, and I've met quite a few of them reporting to my last ship in their initial check-in. They were born after 2001. Sailors, soldiers, airmen, Marines that are volunteering today are born after those events. But they understand them because we're keeping the memory alive. I ask you to continue to tell those stories so we learn those lessons and we don't learn them again.
Pine Grove Community Church pastor Mark Carer delivered the morning's invocation.
Today we still see the ripples of that tragic day continue to impact our world. We grieve with our allies today as our allies grieved with us then. And together we wonder if there will ever be an end to the violence, to the war, to the hatred, or to the death. We grieve our world's inability to learn the things that lead to peace.
John Viola is a retired FDNY captain. He wasn't at work when the planes first struck the World Trade Center, but quickly made his way to his station.
When I got into quarters that morning, there was a chief officer there who had ordered me to stand fast. They were waiting for some sort of a semblance and some sort of orders from headquarters. And I looked at him and I said, Chief, I said, with all due respect, sir, I have 14 members that I left last night that are over there. You can prefer charges against me. You can even start paperwork to have me fired. But unless God Almighty himself strikes me down, I'm going over to that site and I'm going to start searching for my members.
The Saratoga chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution attended the commemoration to present one of 3 wreaths. Regent Heather Mabey says it is more important than ever to support American troops and keep the memory of the attacks alive.
It's important that we continue on that same vein. It's important that we, especially for generations in the future, realize what can happen to our country if we're not diligent in making sure that the security of our country is well taken care of. And we just want to remember these wonderful heroes that sacrificed their lives for our fabulous country.
According to the FDNY, more than 360 firefighters have perished from World Trade Center-related illnesses. In Saratoga Springs, I'm Aaron Levine for the New York Public News Network.
Governor Kathy Hochul will have a minor medical procedure tomorrow morning to remove a common skin cancer. The governor says a doctor discovered a basal cell carcinoma in her nose during a routine checkup a couple weeks ago.
I want to make sure that everybody's smart about this and use your suntan lotion. Make sure your kids are protected. For the Irish, it's very common, and just about everybody in my family.
Basal cell carcinoma is the most common form of skin cancer, according to the Skin Cancer Foundation, with more than 3 million cases a year in the United States alone. Hochul says she'll be back on the job an hour after the procedure with a bandage on her nose. The Plattsburgh City Council voted last week to allow 2 major bus companies to use the former farmers market location downtown. As Cara Chapman reports, officials say it's a temporary solution for a bus stop that may end up moving again.
Greyhound used the Mountain Mart on Route 9 in Plattsburgh as its bus stop for years. But in mid-July, it moved to a spot on Cornelia Street, outside the Clinton County Government Center. The change sparked controversy. There wasn't enough shelter, no bathrooms, and there were traffic concerns. So Greyhound is moving again to the former Plattsburgh Farmers Market building downtown. City Mayor Chris Rosenquist says the facility has bathrooms, but most importantly, it provides shelter 24 hours a day.
The whole idea was that getting people out of the elements and under some type of bus shelter or some type of shelter between their layovers was more critical. That's certainly the complaints that we were hearing anyway.
Rosenquist says the city is installing security cameras and making space for the buses. Greyhound will use the building through a month-to-month licensing agreement. It'll be joined by Trailways, another bus company that's still using the Mountain Mart. Together, the two make as many as a dozen stops in Plattsburgh per day. Each company will pay $1,000 a month to use the city-owned space. Rosenquist told councilors last week that'll cover the cost of operating it.
The cleaning of the facility through third party during inclement weather, we may put porta johns out because the water freezes up in that building. That licensing fee also goes towards paying that, as well as any electricity costs to run the building.
Some councilors were concerned the licensing fee wasn't high enough, and buses from 2 companies could cause issues in the parking lot. Rosenquist said he doesn't expect that to happen.
You're either going to have congestion on Market or Cornelia and complain about that. You're going to have congestion in Durham. You're going to complain about that. So here it is. All right. Here's the solution. I think it's a fair solution. It's temporary. It's not a permanent solution.
In fact, another possible move is already in the works. A Sunoco gas station on Route 3 in the town of Plattsburgh is asking for a special use permit for a bus terminal in its parking lot. Greyhound did use that location very briefly in July before moving to the government center downtown. Town Planning Director Trevor Cole says that's because the owner of the gas station didn't have approval from the town to use the site as a bus stop.
But now they've applied appropriately and are going through the appropriate review process in the town finally.
Cole says the town planning board has asked the Sunoco station to make some small changes to accommodate bus passengers. The board could decide on the application as soon as next week. If it's approved, Cole says the site could start operating as a bus stop once the requested improvements are completed. A Greyhound spokesperson had no comment on the application. Trailways says it isn't directly involved at this time. But Cole says the town is planning for the possibility that more than one bus service may use the site.
For example, it's such a small site that we're looking at, and the geometry is tough, and you can't put more than one bus probably safely on the site. So I anticipate one of the conditions our planning board is going to state, only one bus on the site at a time, loading or unloading.
Mayor Rosenquist says the city is still prepared for the bus companies to use the former farmers market for a year or more if necessary. He says Plattsburgh is a transportation hub in the region, with an airport, train service, and an interstate.
And so when we talk about these types of services that we want to retain and we want to grow and develop, bus system is one of them. Amtrak, Trailways, Flix, folks like that who provide this affordable, accessible transportation option. It's critical for us to continue to maintain and foster.
The city had set today as the target date for the new bus stop to go into effect. But Rosenquist says he's asked both companies to postpone the move until after this week's Battle of Plattsburgh commemoration festivities. Folks are advised to keep an eye on the city and bus companies' websites for updates. Cara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by Eddie Lawrence of Moira and Danny Thomas of Canton. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.